Hello friends, this video is about a topic which is mentioned very often in protection dog circles. And this topic is, do I train bite work first or do I train obedience first? And that's not a simple question to answer, believe it or not, because as a breeder of German Shepherds, I participate in the sport of IPO, IGP, and the key word here is sport. It's not meant to be real life protection, it's meant to be a sport for points. Now, having said that, are the dogs which participate in Schutzhund, which is what it was called up until 2012, before the name change, are they dogs which are capable of protection and serious damage to a would-be opponent? The answer is yes. A dog trained in bite work, which is trained to engage, can be a serious protection dog with some additional training, but it's not a protection dog out of the gate. But it doesn't matter why a dog bites. A sport bite or a defense bite is still a bite. And it'll hurt a would-be attacker. So if a dog can be commanded to amp up on command, that dog can be a very serious deterrent. In general, if you're working with a large German Shepherd and or a Rottweiler or a Doberman and you're being attacked, that person is either on drugs or has a serious issue. So just the presence of a large dog alone would deter most people, I think. So if a person has the need to attack, that person is probably on drugs to be desperate enough to attack somebody working with a large protection breed. All right. Having gotten that out of the way, what do I feel about this topic? Defense first or protection first? Well, let's step back a second. First of all, you have to ask yourself, do you really have a need for a personal protection dog? Is that something you really need? Because if you need a personal protection dog to protect you inside your business or protect your property or your estate, um, such a dog is a potential liability because a bite is not the same thing as a gunshot is, for example. It's much less deadly, obviously. So everybody's walking home at the end of the day. A dog bite is painful, but it's not going to kill anybody. But you might get a lawsuit. So if you get a dog for personal protection, make sure you get liability insurance, or your dog may attack somebody and there will definitely be a lawsuit. So you make sure your homeowner's insurance will cover you, or you have additional liability insurance. And I recommend you do buy liability insurance if you do go the route of training a personal protection dog and take it very seriously. You're not going to use a dog as a weapon in a sense, so you should really think about getting liability insurance. Now, having said all that, um, what kind of dogs can be trained in personal protection? Even German Shepherds, people think they will automatically protect them. The answer is they will not. Um, Dogs from lines and American show lines and even West German show lines are bred for conformation and for beauty. They're not necessarily bred to be personal protection dogs or even sport dogs. They don't have the genetics, and the drive to protect has been bred out of them. They're basically big lap dogs, and that's nothing wrong with that, but understand that that may not be what you're looking for if you need a little bit of defense. In the 1950s and 60s, German Shepherds were more naturally aggressive and were more naturally protective without additional training. But this defensiveness in the dog, appropriate defensiveness, not fear-driven defensiveness, but suspicion and aloofness has been essentially bred out of the dog in the current time. So you must understand that the European working lines are more appropriate for protection training than American lines, even if it's a German Shepherd. That's the first thing you must understand. Watch my video on straight back and slow back German Shepherds where I kind of go into that a little bit. I'm going to put a link in the description for you to watch those two videos. Also have a video of how to get started in the sport of IGP, IPO, and I'm going to put a link to that video in the description so you can become more familiar with dog sports in case you're not. Now, so getting back to this question, should you first train in protection or obedience? The answer is what kind of obedience and what kind of protection. If you're training obedience in non-drive, in other words, you're training a motivational only approach where there's a prey object like a ball on a string or like a tug being used as a reward for doing the job, and food rewards are being used as the initial training, and you want that dog to do a focus heel when you're looking at you as it's healing, and it has a very prancy, very happy walk. That level of obedience is beyond functional obedience for street work. A dog just has to be walking nicely in a leash and not pull you for functional obedience. But for competition obedience, like in Schutzen or even AKC obedience, the dog has to look at you while it's walking, which is well beyond what's required for a personal protection dog. So the obedience in sport work is well beyond the level of personal protection work. Now, so in a dog which is trained for IPO, IGP, it's trained using drive-based obedience. The dog is in drive. It's very powerful. It's showing a lot of character and heart in doing obedience, and it's a very happy, bouncy. It's a beautiful picture to see a dog which is powerful and exhibiting a powerful obedience as it's performing for its handler. Now, if you're training obedience out of drive, you're training using the older method, using correction-based techniques out of the gate, the Kohler method or the Williams-Strickland method. Now, correction-based obedience to some degree is based on dominance theory, which was disproven, but it still there's a place for it. In other words, if you want to build the foundation of sit down, come, and so forth using motivational techniques and then do corrections, that's correct because you're now creating a reliability to your obedience as opposed to constantly bribing the dog. So if you're watching Zach George, who does this and this cutesy stuff and doesn't believe in any corrections at any time, this video is not for you. That method is completely unrealistic. It's realistic for a puppy when you're first starting out. It's not realistic for a grown dog, and it's not realistic as a way to get reliability for your dog. Zach George never trained a large aggressive breed. Now in Europe, they require a certain level of training for a dog to be titled before it can be bred. For example, we have to have at least a Schutzen 1, and the dog has to do an AD, run next to a man on a bicycle for 10 kilometers. Then it gets core class by a core meister, and only then it's considered breed worthy. Such tests are not required in America. Any dog can have an AKC paper of a purebred male, you have a purebred female, breed them together, you make puppies, and there you go. Now, because the dogs are proven dogs from bite sports, their genetics have not ruled out the protective instincts, and therefore they're more suitable for protection work or sport work, depending on how you move the animal in its learning in history, in its progression from a puppy to an adult. In other words, a dog from the right working lines is more suitable than a dog from pet lines. So you have to understand, you have to start with the right genetics in the first place. Otherwise, this is impossible, what I'm describing. So now, if you are training out of drive obedience, and there's a lot of corrections involved, and you want to train the dog in defense first, which is aggression, the dog which has a lot of obedience training using out of drive obedience may be hesitant to attack the opponent, even though the opponent is teasing the dog because it's running to the end of the leash and it feels a restriction in its neck and it goes, "Oh, Dad, I'm sorry, did I do something wrong?" and goes back to its owner. That's because the dog has been started in correction based, force based obedience, non drive based obedience from the beginning. Now, in that situation, you're doing defense based training first and you have a lot of obedience on the dog. That would be detrimental to developing the dog's confidence because he's afraid to make a mistake because of how he was trained in obedience. But if you're doing motivational obedience, not correction based obedience at the beginning, in the learning phase. See, there's a learning phase, a proofing phase, and a correction phase. A dog must be taken through multiple stages to learn obedience. You don't teach something once and the dog understands it. It's not a human being. It has to be shown by repetition over and over and over, and then shown the same exercise in multiple locations to generalize the idea, and then has to be given more distance and uh, release from command as a release command. There's a whole progression of steps to teach a dog a proper obedience. Now, what does the sport of IPO IGP feel about this? Well, think about it. The first test before you get a Schutzen title is the BH, which is an obedience exercise. The dog must do on and off leash obedience, doing focus heeling, left turn, right turn, about turn, the front, the finish. And while your dog is doing an obedience routine, another dog is in a down stay for about 15-20 minutes while your dog is doing obedience, and then the two dogs reverse positions. The dog which was doing the down stay, now he does obedience, and the dog which was doing obedience now does the down stay. So off leash obedience with a long down is a level of obedience that is required before the dog gets to do protection and tracking. Now you can teach tracking and obedience at the same time. There is no conflict. But protection and obedience, if it's trained through prey drive, where the bite sleeve is developed as a prey object and the mechanics of biting are developed, and not to fear the opponent, the helper, but look at him as a guy who steals the prey. And the dog is taught to bite with the back of the mouth as opposed to the front of the mouth, and to develop a good, calm grip, which is genetic, by the way. Then, of course, the dog is trained in prey. Training obedience and training bite work in prey only is pretty harmless. But if the dog is challenged and threatened to get an aggressive response, that's different. So in sum, what do I believe? I train for sport. I don't train for personal protection. I believe obedience is always first, followed by protection training, not vice versa. Um, I think training in sport, which is using the dog's prey drive and building the dog's confidence, is a lot easier on a dog than putting the dog into defense right away. You might ruin a dog because you might overpower the dog, um, and it might shut down. Um, this is not a simple answer. It's a sophisticated answer depending on what you're doing and what your goal is. In my opinion, if people demand licenses for dogs to breed by putting them through a training system, then people who are getting large aggressive breeds should also be put through some kind of training before they're allowed to own such large dogs. I'm not advocating government programs, but I am advocating self-regulating people, self-regulation, as they say, where people will regulate themselves to get the necessary training before buying large aggressive breeds. I think that everybody will benefit. Dogs will benefit and people will benefit if that was required. Before you get a dog license for a large breed, you should be trained in Schutzen as a mandatory course, or you should pass AKC at least at the CDX level before you can handle a large breed. And that should be mandatory, in my opinion. Otherwise, you shouldn't own a very large breed because you can't handle it and you're a liability to the dog population. And less dogs would be euthanized if people knew how to handle them properly. So all puppies are cute, but when you're getting a cute German Shepherd puppy in a very short amount of time, it'll be bigger. If you can't handle a large, powerful breed, you shouldn't buy one. So That's how I feel. I feel that advocating for the dog first and foremost is my job as a breeder and as a dog lover. I love animals, and my goal is to always advocate for animals and always to love animals. So if you don't feel that animals are valuable in your life and you feel like they're toys that can be disposed of easily, this video is not for you. If you feel cookie-based luring is the only way to train dogs, this video is not for you. If you feel a dog can never receive a correction for doing something wrong, this video is not for you. Handling a large, powerful breed involves you being the authority figure to that dog. You're in a command position to that animal. That animal must respect your authority. Now, a dog can love you but not respect you. That's possible in animals, in dogs. You have to understand that concept. You have to understand that you're in a position of leadership to that animal. Now, if you are not able to exercise leadership and you don't feel you have enough character in you to be the boss of the animal, especially when it's acting aggressively to another animal or person, and you can't stop that, don't own such a large breed. You're not responsible enough to own a large aggressive breed. It's that simple. There's a lot of breeds out there. About 400 breeds, as far as I know, exist currently. Pick another breed. Pick a Labrador Retriever. Pick a Springer Spaniel. Don't own a large, powerful breed if you can't handle it. So to summarize, not every breed is suitable for protection. From those which are suitable for protection, not every line is suitable for protection. Only working lines are, not pet lines. And there's a responsibility involved on the part of the owner and on the part of the animal. And not all animals have the nerves and drives to perform this work. Now, between nerves and drives, I always pick nerves. In other words, you may not necessarily need a high drive dog to be a protection dog, but you do need a dog with good nerves. By that I mean it takes a while to trigger the dog into aggression. A fear biter will bite quickly without much provocation. A dog with strong nerves has a high threshold before he acts. So that's the key to understanding what nerves are versus drives. You may have a dog with not that much prey drive, which will be hard to train, but it has good nerves. So you have to pick better nerves over higher drive dogs. If you have a medium drive dog but with good nerves, that's a better prospect than a dog which is very drivey but has weak nerves. I've seen dogs which are so amped up for the bite that they'll go back up on the man, their owner, and bite their own hand or hip or something because they're so keen on the bite against the opponent. If they're not getting that bite quickly enough, they're so amped up they redirect against the owner. Such a dog should not be kept. This is my opinion. I don't think they have good judgment. And if a dog goes against its own owner and bites it because it's excited to get the bite against the opponent, that's weak nerves. That's not a dog worth breeding or keeping, in my opinion. Anyhow, this was my vlog on this topic. If you have any questions, please subscribe and please comment below. I would appreciate it. Talk to you soon.
And that wraps up another episode of the Von Ganta House YouTube channel. Thank you for being part of our German Shepherd community. Remember, you can stay connected to us beyond the podcast. Find us on all the major media platforms by searching for Von Ganta House. Whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, just hit that follow button or that subscribe button to join the conversation and get the latest updates. If you have a burning question or want to apply to be a guest on our show, we would love to hear from you. Simply shoot us an email at vongantahouse@gmail.com. And if you are a business interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out to us at the same email address at vongantahouse@gmail.com. For more resources, exclusive content, puppy reservations, visit our website at vongantahouse.com. We have blogs and articles you might enjoy as well. It's your go-to destination for everything German Shepherd and working dog sports related content. Thank you once again for tuning in. We can't wait to speak with you again, where we explore the fascinating world of breeding, training, genetics, and our wonderful breed. Look forward to hearing from you.